Bonjour à tous. Alors, aujourd'hui, nous allons faire les corrections. So today we are doing the corrections. So for those of you who cannot watch the video, what I suggest you do is listen to this audio while looking at the slides that I'm giving to you later. Okay? So, first of all, to begin with some general comments. Number one, for the first exercise, most of you understand the questions and know how to answer, which is great. And the class average score was 7 over 10 points, so most of you got above average. This is just for your own reference. The score is not a test, it's not an exam, it's just for you to, self-improve on. Number two, the second exercise, you did a little bit, a little worse than the first one, or maybe not a little, a lot. Some of you did not understand the questions. Some of you did not read the instructions. Some of you, I think, completely forgot French and everything we learned in class, which is a bit sad. But I can see that, a lot of you struggle a little bit more for this exercise because it was a revision after all. It was, this were things that we learned weeks and weeks ago, right before the MCO. So I can understand that you might have forgotten some of the things that we learned. So anyway, class average score was 19 over 31 points. Although it's still above average, I still want you guys to do better next time. So I want you guys to aim higher than 20. Yeah, you can do that? So let's go on to the next slide. So what must you do as a student learning language and learning French? First of all, number one, when you're answering anything, always read the instructions, okay? Always read the instructions first before attempting to do anything, okay? Number two, check your spelling, your capital letters and full stop after you write something. Because I get a lot of answers that, that has a sentence that doesn't start with a capital letter and doesn't end with a full stop, which is, something that you have to do. And you guys are mostly 19 years old and above, so, I cannot teach you how to write. This is something that you should know by now, right? So, yeah, which comes to the third point. Write properly in full sentences. Do not write like you are WhatsApping someone, which is not proper and is not formal, okay? So, this is learning language, so you always have to, write properly, because we're dealing with, a lot of words, sentences, and things, so write properly. Number four, do not forget your accent when it is required. This, I know, is a bit hard for you because you don't know how to type it on your keyboard. What I suggest is try to download a French keyboard in your phone. Maybe you can check the settings for that. Also, if you're trying to type on your computer, I suggest Google how to type, certain accent on your keyboard. Maybe there are shortcuts to writing this. I'm not sure myself, but I'll try to find out and let you guys know. Number five, you can use online resources and your textbooks when you're answering these questions. This is not an exam, it's just a small quiz, but I didn't tell you to not refer to anything, right? Because I saw some answers, I don't know whether you are rushing or you were sleepy, you just want to finish it off fast. Because ada macam jawapan yang macam main bantah je, main tembak je. So no, please don't do that next time, okay? Lastly, revise, and revise, okay? Try to open your textbook and, just study one page a day or one page every few days. Do not let it go completely. The thing about language, as I've advised in the very first few classes, is that, once you just leave it, right, you can just easily forget in everything that you've learned. So the thing with language is you have to keep up with it and, just put a minimal effort to just try to memorize a bit and study again what you've learned so that it just becomes automatic to you, okay? Alright, so the contents for today is, number one, I'm just going to remind you about le conjugaison because I find that some of you are still confused as to why we have to conjugate. Number two, an introduction to the article défini, or in English, the definite article. this is something that all of you know, you should know, but it's just that there's a name for it, right? And we always never remember the name, but we know the thing. Anyway, number 3, we get to the real corrections. So the conjugation. I think some of you are still not sure or confused or do not understand why we have this thing called the conjugation, right? Why do we need to conjugate? So basically, we conjugate all the time. In many languages, we conjugate, especially in English and especially so in French. And conjugation basically means to change a verb so that it matches the subject. So every sentences always have a subject, right? There's always someone talking, right? So, for example, I have a cat. So, what is the subject in this sentence? It's I, right? I have a cat. The cat is just a noun, for example. So, I have a cat. Have, to have. Have changes, right? According to, the subject. So, if you talk about she or he, and that person has a cat, you say he has a cat, she has a cat. You don't say she have a cat, he have a cat. You have to change it according to the subject, and that subject is a third person singular. Same thing in French. So we always change the verb according to if the verb is male or female gender, or if it's a singular or plural. Okay? So in French, a verb that is not yet conjugated is called verbe à l'infinitif, a verb in the most basic form, or dalam bahasa Melayu, kata akar. So for example, the verb avoir, which means to have, and être, which means to be. These are both infinitive verbs. If you need to use these verbs in a sentence, you have to change it according to the sujet, or the subject of that sentence. You cannot use them in the original form, avoir or être. So for example, conjugating avoir for the subject that is a first person singular. So what is a first person singular? It is I or saya, kan? So in French, it's je. So how do you conjugate avoir for je? It's j'ai, I have. The next example, the verb être, to be. How do you conjugate that for the third person singular? Third person singular is dia, right? Dia, he or she. So in French, it's il ou elle. Il est, elle est. He is, she is. So that's the point of conjugating. You have to always match it to the subject. And the last point for conjugation is why we conjugate is so that we know if that sentence is in what sort of tense. Is it in the present tense? Is it in past tense? But now, because you are only learning in the beginning, you are only débutant, so you're only learning the present tense. So you don't have to worry about anything else. You only have to worry about the present tense. Au présent. The next concept that I want to teach you about is the l'article défini, or in English, the definite article. It's nothing complicated, it's nothing serious. You actually already know this. You know the word, it's just that we never remember the name of it. So the definite article is a word that is used with a noun. It is used to define the noun as something specific. So when you're talking about someone or something that is specific, you always have to have this definite article before it. In English, the definite article is the word the, okay? The. And for example, you have the sentences, she is the sister of my friend. If you're talking about this person, this specific person. Or if you want to talk about something as simple as a book, you can say, this is the book that I want to buy. This is the book that I'm borrowing. So, in French, they have their own article, definite article, and it's called l'article défini. En français, il y a 3 articles définis. There are 3 definite articles. Ils sont la, le, et les. They are la, le, and les. So the use of la, le, inlay depends on the gender of the noun and whether it is single or plural. It's the same concept as adjective possessive, where the usage of that depends on always on the gender of the noun and always on the whether it is single or plural. So we already covered this actually. It's just that we don't realize it. So for example, the word sœur. Sœur is sister. So la sœur, the sister. Cousine is female cousin, right? So the cousin, the female cousin, la cousine. So le frère, the brother. Le cousin, the cousin, the male cousin. Les parents, the parents. Les grands-parents, the grandparents. Okay, so it's simple as that.